Alright guys, welcome back to my fun-filled shop here. We're going to have another What's Inside video. So today I got for you this lovely guy here. Face it the right way. This is a Bussmann by AC or by Eaton. Electric vehicle fast-acting safety fuse. Now, this particular model you would find in a Chevy Volt platform. It would usually be contained inside a disc device that you turn and pull it up. And this one is rated for 420 volts DC, and it's at 20 kiloamps. I think that's kind of high, but we'll find out here inside. So the adder, if you don't know what a fuse is, it's basically a device that blows, protecting electrical circuits. Higher amp fuses, they tend to put them inside this ceramic case that keeps the hot metals inside that blow up from getting everywhere else. It's also good for dissipating heat. Now, this fuse is riveted on one end, and it's flat on the other. If you notice this stuff here, that is sand. The insides of these things are generally packed with sand. The higher amperage and the higher grade fuses are typically packed with sand, and the reason that is to contain the explosive forces of the material when the fuse blows, because when it blows it creates an arc. So I'm going to attempt to take this guy apart. Fun part about it is if I'm going to be able to get it apart in one piece or not. I have drilled these rivets. As you can see here, they are disconnected, and as I tap this on the desk here, you can see sand coming out of the fuse. Now that should allow it to come apart, but I have a gut feeling this is pretty well packed in there. I'm looking at the rivets, trying to make sure they're fully detached, and it looks like so. I think it's just going to be one of those cases where it's just stuck together. I don't really want to start breaking apart the ceramic, but I want to try to preserve the fuse. So we'll see here what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a couple of tools here. Also going to grab a drill bit. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go at those rivet holes with a little bit of a step type bit, just to make sure that the rivets are fully detached. So as you can see here, I've got my trusty step bit. These are good for chewing out rivets. Okay, so if there was a rivet there, it's gone. Right now I'm just cutting in the sand. Same thing with that one. I think most of this is just packed because of the sand. That's the biggest deal with it. These ends are connected to each other by the fusible link. The fusible link on this one has not yet blown. So gut feeling is going to tell me is I'm probably going to have to break the case on this, which I'm not really looking forward to doing. As you can see there. How are we going to take this guy apart? I may have to break the fuse in order to get it apart. These aren't necessarily meant to be taken apart. They're non-serviceable. So, yeah, as you can see, that's pretty hard for that ceramic. What I could probably try to do, and this tends to work sometimes, is if you take a utility type knife and you score the material, that will kind of get it going for rupture. in a sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife here, I'm going to score this in a couple of places. Okay. I'm going to find some kind of device. Ideally, what I like to use is these, because it's just ceramics, so I could possibly crush it. Alright, so I had to stop the video because we're kind of running out of room here. So I did get this thing apart. The actual outer casement is not ceramic, but it's more of a epoxy or composite material. It looks like some probably like fiberglass, something that's definitely heat resistant. You can see it's woven and then it's cured to be solid, so probably like a fiberglass resin cast or something like that. As you can tell, here's I cleaned up a bunch of stuff, but here's a bunch of sand. Here's a hard piece of sand that was left over that was stuck to the bottom. They tend to pack this stuff in there, and when they cure in the base, it kind of hardens everything. And what it does is it creates a kind of a heat-resistant layers to allow it to dissipate heat. Sand is good for absorbing heat. So as I carefully pick this up, you can see this is the inside of the fuse, and this is the actual part of the fuse that's a link. And what this is on these heavier fuses, these are very high-intensity copper bars, or, you know, high current traveling copper bars. And what they do is they've got these perforations. And so what happens is if something was to go bad with this fuse, it would blow, or it would cause these perforations to melt and thus severing the fuse, but it would do it across the 3 bands, because they have to do that so they can get the amount of power rating through this fuse. When the fuse is rated for a large amount of power, there has to be enough for it to travel, and they can't necessarily do that with 1 copper bar, so they break it up into 3. And this does create quite a bit of an arc when it happens. However, I don't know if you can see it on this one here. Is it that one? So over time, what happens with these is that those little fins, or those little fingers, start to take themselves out of the equation, or, you know, they start to go like this one gets too much capacitor amperage through it, and say one of these fingers on the end will go, and eventually it'll keep doing that one by one. So if you have a heavy load day and this fuse may be good enough that it's still providing power, but it's compromised, then what happens is just like that, the whole thing goes. And that's kind of what it's meant to do. If I sit here and flex those, that'll break too. That's from me flexing. But in a sense, if this one blows, that's what's going to happen. But these do kind of deteriorate over time, like I was saying, and they can, you can get like, say, half of this side here, if I can get it to do it. So like you can get it like that, where there's like just a couple of fingers left, and it's enough to, on a light load day, it'll work, but then you put a heavy load, and boom, and your electric car dies. But, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple principle in a sense, if you think about it. But that's, if you ever wonder what's inside one of these things, that's what's inside them. It's nothing more than just basically a couple fusible links, you know, and then they're spot welded or soldered to the end of these plates, and then these are your lugs that kind of to attach to everything or transmit the power out, and these are coated so that they have very little resistance. You know, they're trying to keep the resistance down. If you have resistance, then it draws more amperage, you know, power loss factor, I guess, in a sense. And then, of course, everything is just kind of held in place by the outer shell here, which I was expecting this to be like ceramic or something a bit harder, but I guess they're doing these fiber composites now. I don't know if you can see that. Come on now, you camera, focus! Focus! You know you want to focus. There we go. Yeah, as you can see, that looks to me like that's a fiberglass resin. So I guess they're finding new technologies, but this is the strong bone of the whole thing. Yeah, I did kind of kill the label. But Yeah, so if you ever wonder what's inside one of these things, on a short clip, that is what's inside an electric vehicle fuse. Fast acting, too, for that matter. Thanks for watching. Alrighty, we're not quite done yet. I want to come back and talk about this here real quick. So what we've got here on the end piece, this is not metal or this is not steel. This appears to be copper, from what I can see on the drillings, and it's coated. A lot of times they do like a brass coating. Let's see if I can get a file here. And they coat these guys out. I also see a lot of these that are made with brass or it's tin coated copper. It is not magnetic. I already did that test. So there's no steel in this whatsoever. However, what I will do is just kind of scrape away. So as you can see there, as the layer is gone, that's copper. So these are copper bus terminals that are coated with some kind of material. It could be, not sure what the coating is. It could be aluminum or it could be a brass coating. If you know, please throw it in the comments down below. But yeah, if they were to make these out of steel, then there would be a high resistance with electricity, because as much as steel conducts, it is very poor at conducting. So it doesn't allow the current to travel flow very easily. It will conduct, but it has a lot of resistance, so they tend to use these types of materials. And I mean, you can kind of tell it when I hit the drill in there. You can see the copper in the holes. So yeah, it's an interesting tidbit. Yet again, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next.